Please do it. Please do it.
Please do what you're asked. Please.
Back up, Lacey. Do what they say. Back up.
Get on your face. Get on your face right now. Back up. Let me keep your hands where we can see them. Keep your hands where we can see them. Go all the way down. Whoa, let me see. Don't do it.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So, out in Chicago, there was a young brother by the name of Quintonio Legrier, who happened to be a 19-year-old mentally ill young brother. Now, he ended up calling the police for help. He called them a number of times for help, but they didn't come out until his father actually called. Now, when the police finally did show up, not only did they end up killing Quintonio Legrier, they also ended up killing another woman by the name of Bettie Jones. Now, let's see what led from somebody calling the police for help to two people ended up getting murdered.
New video tonight and questions about a deadly shooting by Chicago police. As CBS 2's Suzanne Lemonnier reports, the officer who said Quintonio Legrier swung a bat at him didn't make that claim until 2 days later.
This newly released city street camera video shows the police van Officer Robert Rialmo and his partner were in heading to the home of Quintonio Legrier. This video is from a neighbor's home. It shows police going to Legrier's apartment building moments after he and neighbor Bettie Jones were shot by Rialmo. Now, these police reports show Rialmo had different accounts of what happened that night. Attorney Vasilios Foutris is the attorney for Legrier's estate.
It indicates to me that this is an after-the-fact justification in order to justify what he did to try to prevent himself from being prosecuted for killing an unarmed kid.
About an hour and a half after the shooting, Rialmo told detectives Legrier had an aluminum baseball bat in his hands, which were raised above his head. Re-interviewed 2 days later, Rialmo mentioned things he never said in the first report. Police officer Rialmo heard someone charging down the stairs from the second floor, referring to Legrier, adding Quintonio Legrier swung the baseball bat at police officer Rialmo with an overhand downward swing and then a half backward swing.
His partner specifically says he never saw Quintonio swing the bat.
Rialmo's attorney, Joel Brodsky, says there are not two different accounts, but only one, and an explanation.
Basically, you're saying there is no second version.
It's not a second version. You see initial interviews just trying to get basic facts, and secondary, more thorough interviews, kind of expanding and filling out the story with the additional details. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's actually typical.
Legrier's mother had this to say about the revelation in the police reports.
It was obvious to me that they had something to cover up. And for him to change his story 2 days later, if someone tried to strike you with a bat, that would be like one of the first things you would say.
Legrier's mother also says she thanks Rialmo's partner for saying in the second interview he never saw her son swing the bat at Rialmo. The report says Rialmo's partner was looking down as he backed down the stairs at that time.
So, police officer Robert Rialmo originally said that Quintonio Legrier had the bat above his head, and then 2 days later, as he's filling out the details, he said he heard somebody charging down the stairs, and then Quintonio started swinging at him with the bat. And of course, he feared for his life, so he had no other choice but to shoot and kill Quintonio Legrier. Now, when they asked his partner, he said he didn't see him swing a bat because he was looking down at the time. But if he's swinging the bat at somebody, how long are you looking down? And why are you looking down as a police officer if somebody is attacking your partner with an aluminum bat? Especially to the point where he feels like he has to shoot him. But the problem with that story is it still doesn't account for how Bettie Jones was shot, an innocent bystander. all of the evidence in this case does not point towards this officer's story. It goes against this officer's story. You have eyewitnesses whose accounts are different from the officers and whose actually does match the evidence.
Also making news tonight, we now know the federal investigation into the Chicago Police Department will include this weekend's shooting that left 2 people dead. CBS 2's Derek Blakely is live in the newsroom with more on this story. Derek.
Rob, an eyewitness account of the police shooting that claimed the lives of those 2 West Garfield Park residents is raising new questions tonight about what caused police to open fire. Marco Mercado lives just next door to the scene of the fatal shootings, and this is what he says he saw early Saturday around 4:30 a.m. from his living room window. The officer was standing here when he opened fire.
Yeah, this is 7 shots.
7 shots?
7, you know.
He wasn't at the door, he was right here.
Yeah, right here.
Shots fired from the sidewalk or parkway, and that account seems to fit with other information gathered by the Jones family attorney, Sam Adam Jr.
Shell casings that were shot, many were found on the sidewalk area and near the street, and so which suggests to me that the gunfire came from a substantial distance away, that no police officer's life was in danger at the time.
The father of 19-year-old Quintonio Legrier summoned police when the NIU student threatened his dad with a baseball bat. The father asked downstairs neighbor Bettie Jones to open the door for police. But it's still unclear what police saw in this vestibule that led to the deadly gunfire.
This is simply more than an accident. This is something that should have never happened.
Meantime, Jones' 4 daughters continue to try to come to grips with the loss of their mother, a 55-year-old who worked at a bakery and as a crossing guard and doted on her kids.
They took my mommy from me. She was everything. She meant the world to me. She would have broke her neck to make sure all her kids was happy.
The Jones family's legal team is still gathering information and especially wants to see the IPRA report on the shooting, but it fully expects to file a wrongful death lawsuit against police and the city. Meantime, an attorney for 19-year-old Quintonio Legrier tells CBS 2 he filed suit today in connection with Legrier's death.
So not only do you have an eyewitness saying they saw Officer Robert Rialmo shooting from the sidewalk, you have bullets on the sidewalk. You have all kinds of evidence that this man was just standing on the sidewalk shooting the house up at whoever came to the doorway. Now, here you have this woman, Bettie Jones, who was just opening the door like the police asked, and she ended up getting shot up, along with Quintonio Legrier. This woman didn't have anything to do at all with the situation. Yet, despite being an innocent bystander, she still gets the same results as anybody else. Now, Bettie Jones and her family don't get justice. Quintonio and his family, who actually called for help, don't get justice. Because no matter how different the Officer Robert Rialmo's story was from the evidence in the eyewitness accounts, they still said it was insufficient evidence and didn't charge him.
It's the first big decision out of the new state's attorney's office to not charge Chicago police officer Robert Rialmo, who shot and killed Quintonio Legrier and his unarmed neighbor, Bettie Jones, the day after Christmas back in 2015. Her family reacted to the news today, and CBS 2's Brad Edwards was there.
We will not stop fighting to hold her, Officer Rialmo, City of Chicago, accountable for this tragic death.
Her daughter couldn't finish her statement. Her mother, Bettie Jones, was killed hours after hosting family Christmas in 2015. Shot once, accidentally, by Officer Robert Rialmo, who responded to a call at her neighbor's.
He took a great woman from us that we can't never get back. Only thing we have is memories.
The state's attorney said it found insufficient evidence of criminal wrongdoing by Officer Robert Rialmo. The family's attorney's investigation, even citing an eyewitness in a CBS 2 News report. An investigation raises questions, they say, to the veracity of Rialmo's narrative.
That is damning evidence, objective evidence. Why isn't that enough? Let a jury decide. Present the case, let a jury decide.
Officer Rialmo arrived that day after a distress call from the family of Quintonio Legrier, who was agitated and had a bat. His mother today.
He called for help to get shot. I don't understand that. I have no words for that. And yet this cop is not going to jail. He's still on the force. I don't understand the society that we live in today.
And this was the first major decision out of new state's attorneys Kim Foxx's office. Though Foxx did not make the decision, her first assistant decided. She recused herself because she worked for the firm, now representing the victim, Ms. Jones's family. Robin, Erica.
So is the prosecutor's office even saying anything about the case at this point?
Well, of course, with this type of decision, we had many questions asked for comment, nothing beyond the statement they sent out.
Now, this Officer Robert Rialmo, who killed a mentally ill 19-year-old young brother who called the police for help, and an innocent bystander, and said that Quintonio attacked him with a baseball bat swinging twice that his partner didn't even see happen, that eyewitnesses didn't see happen. And not only will he not be charged, but he was able to keep his job. Then to add insult to injury, Robert Rialmo sued Quintonio Legrier's estate because he was forced to shoot and kill him.
This counterclaim against the estate of Quintonio Legrier, Officer Robert Rialmo says he feared Legrier was going to kill him. Rialmo says he had no choice but to shoot Legrier. Rialmo also says he never saw neighbor Bettie Jones. She was blocked from view by a bat-wielding Legrier.
Quintonio Legrier forced him to take both Legrier's life and the life of an innocent person, Bettie Jones. That's what's causing him the distress.
Legrier family attorney Vasilios Foutris.
If he's such a delicate flower, he shouldn't be in the police department.
So your contention is if you sign up for police work, you sign up for a situation like that?
You should be prepared to handle something like this, and if you're not prepared to handle a situation like this, get off the police force.
The officer's counterclaim seeks between $50,000 and $10 million from the teen's estate on the grounds of emotional distress.
First you shoot him, then you sue him. Is that the new standard for the Chicago Police Department?
Why do you say the counterclaim is nonsense?
We've gotten photographs, we've gotten video. Nothing at all substantiates anything that's in that counterclaim. What you see in the counterclaim is pure fantasy.
All of the forensics say that their version of the events is the fantasy.
Well, reached by phone today, Quintonio Legrier's mother says her son was the victim, not Officer Rialmo. She calls the counterclaim disrespectful in her words, adding her son called for help 3 times and wouldn't have attacked the person who came to help. Instead, she says the person who was sworn to protect her son killed him.
So not only can he shoot this young brother, but then turns around and sues him for emotional distress for shooting him. Now the sick part is we live in a society that allows us to be physically harmed. And not only that, they allow them to then turn around and sue us for them physically harming us. Just like that case where this 27-year-old man punched this 14-year-old kid in the face after he actually started the confrontation by calling him nigga and just instigating it. Now, not only did the police decide not to charge him, he then turned around and sued the kid after he punched the kid in the face. Now, if these kind of things don't make our people put aside those petty differences, petty beliefs, and start focusing on things like group economics and self-education, educating our own children, building our own systems, and most importantly, protecting ourselves in those systems that we build. It's not like these kind of stories are anything new, and that's the problem. And if anything, things have improved. It's been hundreds of years and we still saying the same thing. And I know that we can all agree that we want a safe future for our kids along with prosperity. And we want justice and we want fairness for them. And we can all agree we want these kind of things to stop happening to our people. So let's build off of that to do what we have to do instead of arguing about things that we disagree about. Because if we don't, situations like Quintonio Legrier, Bettie Jones, and neither one of them getting any kind of justice will keep happening. And if we don't build a nation, we'll still be arguing to be a part of this nation in another 200 years.
Chicago Emergency, Brown.
Yeah, I need an officer at 4710 West Euree Street.
47 what?
4710 West Euree Street.
Okay, what's wrong?
I just need an officer over there, okay?
No, it don't work like that. What's your emergency?
I need to talk to an officer.
Okay, what's wrong?
I need to talk to an officer.
Okay, you can talk to an officer over the phone. I can connect you to one if you want.
Someone's threatening my life.
Is the person there with you now?
Yes.
Are you in a house or apartment?
I'm in a house.
And your name?
Q.
What's the last name?
Could you just send an officer?
Yeah, when you answer the question.
There's an emergency. Can you send an officer?
Yeah, as soon as you answer these questions. What's your last name?
There's an emergency.
Okay, if you can't answer the questions, I'm going to hang up.
I need the police.
Terminate the call.
December 26, 2015, 4 hours, 20 minutes, and 9 seconds.
Chicago Emergency, Robin.
Hello, are you sending the police to my location?
Where's your location?
4710 West Euree.
4710 West Euree. Is that a house, apartment?
4710 West Euree. Can you please send the police?
Is it a house, apartment?
It's a house. Can you please send the police?
Your name?
Can you please send the police?
After you tell me what's going on, what's your name?
Can you please send the police?
December 26, 2015, 4 hours, 21 minutes, and 0 seconds.
Chicago Emergency, Buckman.
Can you please send the police?
To where?
4710 West Euree Street.
What's wrong?
Have an emergency.
I need to know what's wrong.
Someone's threatening my life.
Who? Where are they now?
They're in the house.
What's your name?
Q.
Where are you going to be, Q?
Are you going to send the police already? Yeah, it's not going to play.
Are you at the house, Q?
Get play with you. I'm trying to kill you.
Are you at the house?
Anybody.
Hello?
What's wrong with you?
Hello? Do you need the police or no? Hello?
Are you going to send the police or not?
You going to answer my question?
Why are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. If you can't answer the questions, how do you expect me to assist you?
I already told you I'm at the house.
No, you did not. You told me that person was at the house.
Oh.
Any weapons involved?
Oh.
Any weapons involved?
No.
Where are you going to be?
Oh, stop fucking playing with me.
Hello?
Stop fucking playing with me.
Are you talking to me or someone else? Because my name ain't Folk. Goofies.
December 26, 2015, 4 hours, 24 minutes, and 38 seconds.
Hey. Chicago Jackson. Yeah, my son freaking, I need an officer, 4710 West Euree. 4017 was Euree. I need police assistance.
Now, what happened?
My son is attempting to break inside my bedroom door and he's asleep. I don't know
Okay, is it a house or an apartment?
A house, second floor.
Is it on the second floor? All right. Does he carry any weapons that you're aware of?
He's got a baseball bat in his hand right now.
Has he been? How old is he?
19.
Has he been drinking?
No, not to my knowledge.
What's your name, sir?
Quintonio Legrier.
Okay, watch for the police.
Thank you.
Let me just begin with you talking a little bit more about your son. I know Quintonio, I understand he ran a marathon for charity, helping raise money for children in Africa. He was an honors engineering student in college. Can you help us get to know him a little bit more?
At this point, Ms. Brooke, he was everything you just spoke of and more. He was a kind, generous son who always contribute nothing but the utmost respect for all people.
Can you now take me back to Saturday? You were the one who called police on your son.
Yes.
Can you first just tell me why?
I heard a loud bang at my bedroom door, and I can only assume it was my son because only him and I was in the house. And when I thought about it, I was asleep. When I woke up and I thought about it, after a second banging on the door, I received a phone and called the police department because I wasn't equipped with being able to understand how to deal with my angry son at that time, because I figured the police would know better how to handle an angry situation that my teenage son was going through.
Without, divulging personal information, when you talk about, your son was angry, you told the Chicago Sun-Times that he had some anger issues, emotional problems. When you, just knowing that, as you would, as a father would know about his son, did you relay that when you called 911?
At this point, I can't remember what I said exactly, and I know that when the call was made, I had just been awoken from a sleep, so I'm not sure exactly what I said.
And then police arrive, and what happened?
I heard a noise, which was a voice saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," to my knowledge. I can't accurately remember, but it was along those lines. And I proceeded down the staircase from my apartment on the second level. And as I got a quarter of the way down the staircase, I heard gunshots. I stopped at that point in time because I didn't know for sure where those shots were coming from. And after that, the gunshot stopped. I proceeded further down the stairs, displaying my hands, indicating that I'm sorry, Ms. Brooke.
No, I'm
indicating
sorry.
I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Indicating that I was the father and I was the one that called. And when I got to the bottom of the steps, I noticed the lower torso at first of someone in a stance in the grass. I did not know clearly if he was an officer or who he might have been. And as I got to the bottom of the stairs on the landing, I recognized someone standing there, dark hair, light skin, Spanish or perhaps Caucasian race. And I noticed the gesture. I can't believe it. I thought he was coming at me with that bat. F, the word F, no, no, twice was yelled. I proceeded to look to my right, and I saw my son laying there. And I saw his legs, and he was approximately 3 feet inside Miss Jones's doorway. And I wanted to reach down and grab him, but I wasn't trained in CPR or anything, so I didn't know exactly what to do except call out to him to let him know that I was there. Because my son, please forgive me, Miss Brooks. My son was laying there, and he was still alive and moving. And no one at all assisted him at any time while he was there. And at which point I looked back and saw Miss Jones laying there. And once again, yelled, screamed as loud as I can. Someone get an ambulance. Someone get someone to help my son. That's all I can think to say.
The chief of police at the University of Nevada, Reno, apologized for an officer who dressed up as Colin Kaepernick for Halloween and mocked the 49ers QB's refusal to stand for the national anthem last season. The officer was dressed in a wig, painted on beard, false nose, a mocked-up jersey, and sign that says, "We'll stand for food." UNR spokeswoman Carrie Garcia said the officer's costume is inappropriate, but no action will be taken against the officer because there's no disciplinary policy that addresses the situation. By the way, Kaepernick played his college ball at the University of Nevada, Reno.
Okay, the next two slides will depict a cell phone video that was actually captured by two witnesses who were on Harrison Avenue during the incident. As the officers encountered the individual at 3315 Harrison, they initially gave him commands to go to his knees, which he initially complied. They also gave him additional commands to lie flat on the ground. The individual begins to go to the ground, then raises up and retrieves a firearm from his waistband. The three officers that you see in the slide here, they all three engaged the individual, striking him multiple times. Now the next slide, we'll play it live for you, and then we'll play it so we'll loop it a couple of times so you'll get a closer depiction of what occurred. So go ahead, Mike.
Please do it. Please do it. Please do what you're asked. Please. Back up, Lacey. Do what they say. Back up.
It's also to be noted that there were several other officers that were on the scene. Those three officers that had the vantage point to see him directly, they were the three officers that engaged the individual. As you can see, as he initially starts to go to the ground, he raises up with his right hand, reaches to his waistband. You can see the reaction of the officers. They fire multiple rounds, striking the individual. One more time.
All right, and we back on the forecast. So a lot of people are upset about the two officers in Indianapolis who shot and killed Aaron Bailey, and they end up not getting charged for it. And people are out here protesting as if they're surprised by the results. Now, let's go back and actually see what happened to the brother Aaron Bailey.
This is what's left of Aaron Bailey's car.
This is his last moments. The way he went out, it was horrible.
The video from his attorney.
We're frustrated, and we'd like to see the process move faster.
The rods represent the gunshots fired toward Bailey on June 29th. Based on the damage and how and where the bullets hit the vehicle, an engineering firm will be able to determine the possible location of the two Metro police officers when they fired their weapons.
It appears that the police were shooting from immediately behind the vehicle and behind and on the driver's side of the vehicle when they discharged their weapons.
The investigation into Bailey's death is now well into its second month. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office waiting on the completion of the IMPD internal report. Officers Carlton Howard and Michael Dension remain on administrative duty.
Are you concerned at all that the system, that the process will not work?
No, I don't feel like that. I feel like I got faith, and I feel like the truth will come out.
I do want justice on both ends. I mean, if they came with an answer, or just some type of answer to what happened that night, then maybe I could feel better about, what happened with the police officers and with my brother. But with no answers at this point, I kind of have to question it.
The family is also acknowledging the results of Bailey's newly released toxicology report. Blood and urine samples show that Bailey had cocaine and stimulants in his system on the night of his death.
It doesn't mean that he's just a nobody. Still that night, why did he end up dead? If Aaron did something wrong, he deserved to be in jail.
And now at 6, we have some breaking news coming into the RTV6 newsroom. As we were going on the air, we just received this statement. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office has just told us, in their words, our office has received IMPD's investigation and just this week received the coroner's report on the death of Mr. Aaron Bailey. In addition, Prosecutor Curry has directed investigators assigned to our office to follow up on the investigation, which may be pertinent to the investigation. This matter remains a priority for our office. More information will be provided on the anticipated next steps in the process as the investigative phase concludes. That is information coming in now from the prosecutor's office. We should also add, the family says that Mr. Bailey was working with a local church group on his personal issues and did not deserve to die.
So officers Carlton Howard and Michael Dension pulled over Aaron Bailey, and they never really said why they pulled him over, but apparently they pulled him over. And then he pulled off and led him on a chase. Then after Aaron Bailey crashed into a tree, the police officer said that when they approached him that he started reaching in his console for what they thought was a gun. And it turns out that the brother, of course, was unarmed, and the woman that was with him, they ended up arresting her. Now, even though the officers say that he was reaching into his console, and of course, I don't see any body cameras or anything, but they say he was reaching into his console. But when you look at the evidence, it shows that they were shooting from behind his car. They ended up shooting him in the back. Now, the story that the officers gave and the evidence that they found was so different that the people investigating said, we're going to have to get a special investigator, a special prosecutor on this case. And the police say they have their own investigation still going on whether if he violated rules or not, and if he should be punished as a police officer within their organization or not. Now, when you have situations like these, whether they decide to charge the police officers or whether they don't, they still have to portray the person who was murdered by the cops as a violent thug, a violent criminal. By the way, they don't have any record of murder or anything, but they have been arrested and have encounters with the police in the past. But we know how they love to bring up these people's history as if it has anything to do with the case. Now, in the cases where the police actually have longer records than the people that they shoot, they rarely bring up anybody's history, anybody's past. Or if those people have been doing something positive, they never really bring those things up. But if they have a case where they can bring up somebody's criminal past, then they're going to do that.
So we found out quite a bit, and there's still a lot of questions about what exactly led to that shooting, and we're looking into everyone involved, including Aaron Bailey, the man shot dead by police. Now, here's what we do know. Aaron Bailey has been convicted of 11 felony charges and 19 misdemeanor charges since 1991. Those charges include theft, robbery, burglary, battery, prostitution, and numerous drug charges. Now, since 2014 alone, Bailey had been the subject of at least 16 incidents with the police. Now, we also looked into the history of the two police officers that fired their weapons. Their personnel records do not have any discipline reports filed against them.
In this case, they say, well, since this officer doesn't have a criminal history or a background, then we'll take that in consideration. But then you have people like Officer Bettie Shelby, who shot and killed a man in the back, and even Donald Trump said it was wrong, and now they're going to remove that from her record, so that the next job she applies for, they don't see murderer on her resume.
A judge agreed to seal the record for a former Tulsa police officer acquitted of manslaughter. Bettie Shelby shot and killed Terrence Crutcher when he didn't follow her commands back in September of last year. We told you in May a jury found her not guilty. Fox 23's Preston Jones talked with the DA and a legal expert about what the expungement means.
It's a fairly black and white issue with regard to the law.
Signed, sealed, and now expunged, District Attorney Steve Kunzweiler says since Bettie Shelby was acquitted of manslaughter, he has no problem with the Judge LaFortune's decision to seal Shelby's record regarding the case.
When an accusation is made, an individual that has been exonerated, they ought to have their record cleaned. I don't want that for any particular individual. I mean, we have to respect the process that our court system has been set up for.
Neither Shelby nor her attorney were in court Wednesday morning for the decision, but the judge said all parties had signed off on the agreement, so Shelby's record will be cleared. In the petition, Shelby said she wanted her record sealed due to, quote, dangers of unwarranted adverse consequences as a result of the arrest information.
What happens next? All of the documents surrounding Bettie Shelby's case will officially be sealed, put in the archives, and as long as they're not unsealed for the next 10 years, the state can officially destroy them like it never happened.
After so many years, if nothing comes up, then the court can destroy the records.
Former Assistant State Attorney General Tim Gilpin says many people want their record cleared for future jobs and opportunities.
If it's expunged, they can then answer this never occurred or just leave it off an application.
Shelby was acquitted in May, then resigned from the Tulsa Police Department. She's now a reserve deputy for the Rogers County Sheriff's Office.
She can get her record wiped clean. Meanwhile, somebody with a petty drug charge who may be trying to change their life can't even get a job because they got arrested for drug possession years ago. And Officer Bettie Shelby can go out and apply for any police job and that won't show up on her record. So based on that and the officer's story that doesn't really match the evidence, Special Prosecutor Kenneth Cotter still decided not to press charges.
Beth, that announcement coming 4 months after that actual police-involved shooting in the city here. Now, it's coming from the special prosecutor who was announced back on August 23rd. That's after that shooting happened on June 29th. And they say they will not be charging the officers in this case. And they released a 16-page report that detailed all the information on that night. Again, the special prosecutor getting this case on August 23rd. And it was after Aaron Bailey was shot and killed by 2 IMPD officers after he drove away from a traffic stop and crashed. He was eventually shot by those 2 IMPD officers. Now, the special prosecutor in this case says they reviewed all the evidence, re-interviewed witnesses, and looked at the officers' statements. They said they also looked at the officers' work history and the training of the department and determined that there was no that they acted in self-defense, those 2 police officers. They say, in conclusion, to refute the claim of self-defense, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt either the officer's fear of imminent serious bodily injury or death by Mr. Bailey was objective, unreasonable, or insincere. And they say, based on the results of the investigation, there is no evidence to refute either officer's claim that they were in fear of their lives. Back here live at the City-County building right now, IMPD will continue investigating internally. They've been doing that from the very beginning, but they couldn't move on to all those steps of the administrative review to see if these officers had broken any of IMPD policies in the shooting. That could take many more weeks. We're still waiting for comment from IMPD and the mayor's office tonight. They have not sent that to us.
Special Prosecutor Kenneth Cotter says the shooting was justified because you can't prove that they didn't fear for their life. But if you're that afraid, you need to turn in your gun and your badge. Now, even though I do say we need to become lawyers and judges, and we do because of situations like that, because even though these cops are rarely even charged with the crime, even when they are charged with the crime, we cannot stop there. We cannot be happy with just them being charged. Because even though it is rare to see a cop charged with the crime, it is even more rare to see a cop convicted. We can't just be happy when they're charged. Like with the case of Euree Martin. He was a mentally ill brother who was just walking down the street minding his own business, not doing nothing wrong. And someone called the police on him because he quote-unquote looked suspicious. And he ended up getting tasered to death.
Back in Georgia, a family in Washington County wants answers as to why their loved one died in law enforcement custody. News Channel 6's Renata Dubois is digging deeper into this one. She's just back from Sandersville. And Renata, there really is still a lot that we just don't know.
Yes, Brad, but here's what we do know. The GBI is investigating what happened when Euree Lee Martin encountered deputies from the Washington County Sheriff's Office Friday. Now, those officers responded to a suspicious person, but in the end, that dispatch call left Martin dead.
It was very difficult to watch.
This amateur video shot Friday in Deep Step, Georgia, now has one Washington County family calling for more answers. We spoke with Annie Gilbert Gibbons, who says her uncle typically kept to himself.
And it seems to be some inconsistencies.
The GBI reports Washington County Sheriff's deputies went to the location on Deep Step Road after someone reported a suspicious person in town. That person was 58-year-old Euree Lee Martin.
The video, in my opinion, didn't support what was going on.
GBI also reported that, quote, deputies deployed a taser, but after the altercation, he appeared to be in respiratory distress, unquote. He was arrested and handcuffed too. He died shortly after at the scene.
Why was a taser used, and to the extent that it was used?
Gilbert Gibbons tells me her uncle Euree Lee was walking here on Deep Step Road from his home in Milledgeville to visit family in Sandersville. Now, my cell phone's GPS walking directions say that is a 9.5-hour trip. She says she was very concerned about her uncle's health when he encountered law enforcement because it was 90 degrees plus that day.
The only thing that my mother stated was that someone from 911 called her to say he was out there walking on the side of the road.
Okay.
And my mother, she identified exactly who he was. She made it known that he did have a mental illness.
After speaking with the family today, they understand how this case may mirror other nationally known cases, but they are not advocating protests and riots. They want answers first. Now, a special agent with GBI tells me there was an autopsy performed on Martin in Atlanta, but the medical examiner is going to do more investigating before a cause of death is determined.
So Euree Martin was walking to his family house, which was about 20 miles away, which his family says he did routinely. But on this day, that person calls the police for whatever reason. Now, even though he didn't do anything wrong, Deputy Rhett Scott, Michael Howard, and Sgt Lee Copeland responded and attempted to arrest him. Now, I don't know what they were arresting him for. I'm sure if you look at the police report, it'll say something like disorderly conduct or something like that. Now, these cops say they were forced to taser him because he didn't listen to them. I guess he didn't have his freedom papers with him or something. And so they were forced to tase him multiple times until he went in respiratory distress and ended up dying. Now, even though this man lay on the ground dying, as usual, they still had to flip him over and put him in handcuffs. It doesn't matter, severed spine, shot in the head. They still always have to roll you over and put you in handcuffs. Now, even though the district attorney in this case decided to indict these cops on multiple charges, that is not the end. Even when most of these cops go to trial, some of them pick bench trials where they can just go to a judge who they know is on their side. And even when they have jury trials, they still pick juries that they know would probably side with them. That's the reason why it's important for us to have black lawyers and black judges. We need black lawyers to make sure the jury selection is fair and diverse and our people is included. And we need black judges to make sure these jury selections have more of our people represented on them, especially in cases where we are the defendant and in cases like these with black victims. But at the end of the day, you won't get fairness until you have your own system, your own judicial system, your own police force to not even let it get to this point of having to march about it after somebody is dead. Until we have an economic base and we can be able to create jobs for ourselves, give ourselves opportunities to be prosperous. You have to have that economic base to be able to build the schools and fund the teachers for the schools. We aren't even able to control our kids' curriculum, what they learn in school right now. And all it takes is just starting by keeping the money within our own communities. If you got to buy something, If possible, buy it from a black business. Invest in black businesses so that more stores can open up. We could easily, right now, elect a board of successful black business leaders and just leaders in general, strictly to fund and help grow black businesses that we all can contribute to. We can do that right now. And at the end of the day, we really have no choice but to build our own economy. Because until we build a nation and protect that nation, we will continue to suffer the same results.
Indy's top cop says the FBI will conduct an investigation into the deadly officer-involved shooting of an unarmed black man. That civil rights investigation will center around Aaron Bailey, who was shot and killed last month. 24-hour News 8's Julian Grace is live in the newsroom tonight with more on that decision. Julian.
Well, Brooke, want to be very clear here. IMPD will still conduct its own internal investigation while the FBI will run its own inspection. Now, Chief Roach says he has confidence in the department's investigation, but that he reached out to the FBI a couple of days after the shooting. The tracks of the Aaron Bailey investigation are still being combed over by IMPD and now the FBI.
Let me start out by saying what a tragedy this is.
In the aftermath, there's been a newser.
It's really upsetting to lose a family member.
There's been a rally and town halls.
In response to the events of June 29th.
Then there was this. Mayor Joe Hogsett took responsibility for the deadly shooting in front of a crowd at the Indiana Black Expo.
On June 29th, 2017. An unarmed African-American man was shot and killed in the city of Indianapolis. I happened to be the mayor. I cannot undo what occurred on June 29th any more than I can remake our past. But I must be held accountable for what happened on June 29th, 2017, and I am.
Then came Tuesday morning's announcement that the FBI will be looking at the case.
No way the FBI can make a difference.
They will look at everything, the moments leading up to the encounter, the traffic stop, the short chase, and then the deadly shooting on West 23rd. Police say on that day, Bailey reached into his console, and officers later discovered he didn't have a gun. While the investigation runs its course, there's thought it may not make a difference.
I feel that this is something to try to appease some people that are upset.
Here's a reminder for you. The officers involved are currently on administrative leave.
We have 3 Washington County deputies. They could be facing murder charges. The district attorney believes the 3 are responsible for the death of Euree Martin. Martin was tased to death after walking through a neighborhood in July. 41 NBC's Edna Ruiz has the latest. Edna.
That's right, January. That investigation is finally closed. This afternoon, District Attorney Hayward Altman stated that based on evidence, he wants the 3 deputies indicted, but that'll be up to Washington County grand jury in December. Altman says Martin did nothing wrong.
Mr. Martin, as far as we can establish, had done nothing wrong.
On July 7th, Euree Martin was walking to his family's home. He was then stopped by Washington County deputies after being called a suspicious person.
He was simply walking down the road. He broke no law, and what happened after that will be determined in a court of law.
Martin died in the hands of deputies Michael Howell, Henry Copeland, and Rhett Scott. He was tased to death.
Based on his definition of medical examination, it came from a heart attack based on homicide.
Once Washington County Sheriff Thomas Smith found out, he fired all 3 deputies. But a termination is far from their worries.
Based on my investigation, or my interpretation of the investigation of the facts presented to me, it is the most appropriate remedy in this case to present this case to the grand jury in Washington County for purposes of criminal indictment.
District Attorney Hayward Altman is seeking multiple charges against all 3 deputies. Some of those including felony murder, involuntary manslaughter, and aggravated assault.
This is not presented to them for a fact-finding situation. This criminal indictment will be presented to the grand jury for purposes of criminal indictment.
Martin's family and their lawyers were also present. They were pleased to see the DA and law enforcement seek justice.
So we're a number of steps away, but this first step is one that we've seen so often be missed and not accomplished. So this first step gives us some encouragement, absolutely.
And the Martin family hasn't filed a civil lawsuit. They want to wait it out and move forward with the criminal side. Their lawyer also stated that this isn't a matter of race, although deputies were white and Martin was African American. The grand jury will rule on the indictment on December 19th.
He just found that. He ain't had nothing on him. You see what he doing? He showed to him behind his back. He put that on that man. He put it on him.
Member of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force has pled guilty to sex crimes against 2 children. Bruce Harvey, a former Madison County detective, pled guilty to multiple charges today, including possessing child pornography. Prosecutors say Harvey used his position of trust as an officer and as a karate instructor to sexually exploit 2 female karate students beginning when they were both 13. Harvey was arrested back in May when investigators found evidence on a tape in his home that dated back to February of 2007.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And, I want to say RP to Bettie Jones, Quintonio Legrier, Aaron Bailey, Euree Martin, and day after day, year after year, that list gets longer and longer and longer. As much as they want us to forget about our history, when we look at our numbers, we are in the millions of casualties. If that is not motivation enough to do the things we have to do to change the circumstances, I don't know what is. We can name after name all day long, and by the time we get to the end of that list, there'll probably be more people on the list. We all can agree we want justice for our kids and ourselves. We want prosperity for our kids and ourselves. That should be enough to do what we gotta do. I don't know how much more motivation that we need. So, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something. Or we're gonna keep falling for anything.